Constructive feedback. I would like for everyone to just sit back, close your eyes, and think for just a moment about being at work or maybe even in the classroom. Suddenly, you hear your name being announced over the loudspeaker, asking you to come to the office or stay after class. What's your immediate thought or feelings? If you're like me, it's like, oh crap, what have I done? Did I forget to turn something in? Did I do something wrong? Did I not do something right? What is it? So if you look at me for a minute at the pictures that I have in front of you, a lot of times we feel like the picture on the left. That manager or that professor with that bullhorn and they're screaming at us and we feel little and we feel unimportant and we feel like we're just being criticized and ridiculed. Is that how we really want to feel? Is that how we as a supervisor or a professor want to make the person that we're talking to feel? Let's think about it in a different way. Same scenario, but this time you and that supervisor or professor have a good working relationship. One that's built on trust. One that's built on that person getting to know you. And you feel like they have your best interests at heart. So whenever you hear your name paged, do you get that same sinking gut feeling of dread? Or do you feel more like the picture on the right? Constructive feedback is a huge piece in being a successful leader and or professor, no matter what part of life that you lead. My name is Tina Reese. And I'm currently a student here at the University of Massachusetts Global. I also have worked for Walmart for the past 39 years. In that time, a little over 30 years of that, I have spent in managerial level, different levels at this company. During this time, I have had to develop and learn how to provide and receive constructive feedback. About 8 of those years, I've spent training management at all levels. One of the big pieces that we talk about a lot is constructive feedback. Both the giver and receiver must have a respectful, trusting relationship built through an honest, open, and giving format. Today, while there are many different pieces of constructive feedback that are important, we're going to focus on 3 primary elements. Building that positive relationship and why it's so important. Having that conversation, and then follow up. All 3 of these are vital and important to having good constructive feedback. The first one that I want to talk to you about is a positive relationship. So why do we need to have a positive relationship? Or how do I get it? A lot of times, as we said in the beginning, when you hear that name announced, your name announced over the PA to come to the manager's office, we get defensive. But for constructive feedback to work properly and be beneficial on both sides, we have to have a good, positive relationship. So we have to get to know that person on a one-on-one basis. What makes that person tick? What makes that person happy? How can you talk to them and they not be defensive? You have to start developing that relationship from day one. There has to be a level of trust and respect for both you and the person receiving the constructive feedback to get the most out of that conversation. The second piece is to actually have that conversation. So when it's time that you need to have that conversation, it'll be because either somebody's done something wrong, maybe they've broke policy or a procedure, or not turned their homework in, or maybe it's not even that they did something wrong, but that you see that they could do something better. This should always be a two-way discussion. Both you and the person talking and listening to each other. As the supervisor, you need to be asking questions. Find out why they did it the way they did it, or why they did what they did, or finding out maybe how they could do things differently. Listen to them. Actively listen to them. Put yourself in their shoes. Have empathy. Take notes as you go along. Ask clarifying questions so that you fully understand their point of view and they know that you're honestly wanting to understand. Once you've had that conversation and you've let them know what is expected in detail, then be collaborative. Work together and come up with a solution. If you allow them to put the input in for that solution, they are more likely going to take ownership of it. You need to end the conversation with a plan of action. Kenneth Blanchard said, "The appropriate use of both support and direction in managing others implies managerial skill in both meeting individual needs and organizational objectives at the same time." As that professor or supervisor, you have to care about the people, but you also have to care about what your organization needs to happen. So you need to be able to do both. Once that plan of action is put into place, then follow-up is critical. Follow-up does two things. Number one, it lets that person know that you care. And number two, it helps you ensure that there's been a change made. Therefore, you're able to make sure that your associate or your employee knows that they are important, their success is important to you, but you're also able to ensure that the organizational needs are met at the same time. Guffey and Lowell in our textbook said senders, which would be the managers, leaders, teachers, can encourage feedback by asking questions. Questions are really important when it comes to that constructive feedback. And once it's over with, you need to be able to receive feedback from the person that you gave feedback to, so you can also learn on how to maybe do things differently in the future. So remember, constructive feedback requires these three primary things: developing a trusting relationship, having a two-way conversation, following up in a timely manner. So let me leave you with a couple questions. Which leader do you want to be? The one with that megaphone screaming at the employee, or the one where your employee knows that you have their best interest at heart? Why is it important for constructive feedback to be done well? I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and I look forward to hearing from you.